Hi, welcome. My name's Lloyd Thom, and today I'm going to be your home barista and show you how we at Campos make a pour over. Now there's a lot of different options when it comes to making a pour over. You can use a V60, W60, Calitas, Melitas, origami waves. But the one that we're going to show you today is the ever classy and ever classic Chemex. It's first invented in 1941, and ever since then it's just become an icon of coffee, celebrated in museums, movies, as much as it is in specialty coffee cafes. Making a pour over is a very slow and intentional and deliberate exercise, almost like a ritual. There's a lot of different intricate steps and things that you can do to play around and experiment with getting the best flavor out of the brew. Now there's a few items that are non-negotiable. The first of which is of course a Chemex, and then of course you'll need some paper filters. Now Chemex filter papers are really unique in that they're triple bonded, they're a bit thicker, they're a little bit heavier, so they're really great at presenting an ultra clean, really expressive brew. You're going to need a kettle, a standard house kettle will work, and of course some clean and clear water. Now there's a few things that we might call pro tools, which really help elevate your brew to the next level. The first is a grinder. You can have hand grinders, electronic grinders. As long as it's a burr grinder, that's going to help give you the best results. And by grinding fresh at home, not only does your quality go up at several levels, but you can also change your grind to suit your preferred flavor profile and the coffees that you're using. Otherwise, of course, you can use pre-ground coffee as well. A scale is really important. It's something accurate to 0.01 of a gram, and if it's got a timer built into it, you can really help measure all of your brews and find out what works best for your particular brew. You could also use a temperature controlled gooseneck kettle. Different temperatures might work well for different roast degrees, with cooler temperatures working well for darker roasts and higher temperatures working really well for lighter roasts. Today, for example, we're going to be using water that's 96 degrees. And it's also a good idea to really look into your water. You want to make sure that it's clean, clear, filtered. You're going to get even great results with mineral water. And there's a lot of research and different ideas about the best water for coffee, which require a lot of reading, research, but being 98% of your final product, it's well worth looking into the water that you use for your coffee as well. So let's get started. We'll start by grinding our coffee. Now, how much coffee should we use? We find what works best for a lot of our coffees is a ratio of 65 grams of coffee per litre of water. For this size Chemex, we use 45 grams of coffee to 700 mils of water, or you could also use 32 grams of coffee for 500 mils, but I've got a few friends that I'm making coffee for today. So we'll start by grinding our coffee. Now, which grind size should we use? Now, it's not an easy one for me to explain to you here today. I could probably compare the grind size we're aiming for to be roughly the same size and consistency as salt. But some grinders like this one come with a recommended filter grind setting, which is a good reference point, but ultimately you can let your palate be the guide. If your coffee is a little bit sour and a little bit too strong, you can grind coarser. If you find that your coffee is a little bit weak and a little bit watery, you can grind a bit finer as well. So we'll start by adding our coffee. Great. So now we'll grab our Chemex filter and open it up. And you'll notice that there's one side with 3 folds. We'll place that side into the Chemex with the spout. We will use that extra strength from the 3 folds just to make sure that the paper filter doesn't fall into the spout during the brew, which can really slow things down and almost stop your brew, resulting in some over-extracted flavors. Also, because of the thickness of the filter paper, we really need to thoroughly rinse the filter paper as well. Adding lots of water is not only going to remove any papery taste, but also preheat your brewer so we can maintain a consistent temperature throughout the brew. So after you've rinsed it, lift your filter paper out and empty your water. And then gently place your filter paper back in your brewer, nice and gently, again, so it doesn't fall into that spout. So now we'll grab our scale, place our brewer on the scale and tear it off. Now every step in this process from here on in is going to be about creating an even extraction. So you'll start by adding your coffee, and at a very minimum you want to shake to level the bed, though you can also use a spoon and create a small divot inside the brewer, which is going to help the water gain access to the coffee at the bottom of the cone. So tear off your scale and then start your timer. This first stage of the pour is what we call the bloom. For the bloom, you want to add twice the weight in water as you had in your dose. So if I'm using a 45-gram dose, I want to bloom with at least 100 mils of water. You can use roughly 2 times as much, but at a maximum, you only want to use triple the amount in your bloom. So one of the steps that we use to ensure an even extraction is to swirl the brewer every time that we add a little bit of water. This initial bloom phase lasts for about 45 seconds to a minute, and you can see it's done when some of the bubbling stops happening in top of your brew. From here on in, how you pour is really up to you. You could slowly and consistently add all of your water in one go, but we find we get the best results when we add our water in stages. For this particular brew I'm demonstrating today, I'm going to be adding my water in 200 mils at a time. That is going to help keep the brewer nice and full, and also allows me to swirl in between each pouring stage. That swirl helps create that even extraction by bringing in all of the grounds that are stuck on the edge of the paper filter into the middle. There's no set time for when you need to add your next amount of water. Basically, as soon as there is enough room to add another 200 mils, go for it. By keeping your brewer full throughout the entire time, you're going to be able to maintain a more consistent brewing temperature, which is again going to be one of those factors which helps create a more consistent and more delicious brew. So I've just added another 200 mils, so I'm going to slowly swirl the brewer again. Now, there's a few techniques that you might want to use when you're brewing, particularly if you've got a gooseneck kettle, which can help that consistency and even extraction. You want to maintain a consistent height between your spout and the coffee at the base. If you move the jug up and down when you're pouring, it can agitate and disturb all of the coffee at the base, which can change your brewing dynamics. Also, if you pour very slow and you can see it breaks, or if you pour too fast, it can do the same thing. So keeping a consistent height and a consistent motion and a consistent flow in every single time that you add water is not only part of the, I think, really enjoyable ritual of making pour over, the kind of slowing down and smooth addition of water each time, but it's really going to help get better quality brews each time. As we've done previously, each time we've added water, gentle swirl, which will help bring all of that coffee into the middle and create a nice flat bed at the base. Okay, at this stage, we've added our 700 mils of water, so we can go ahead and preheat our cups. A brew of this size will give you enough coffee for yourself if you're very thirsty, or if you're feeling generous, you can share it with 2 or maybe even 3 other people. So as the brew is finishing, you want to have a close look into the water. You want to try and see if all of that coffee has not stuck to the side of the paper filter. You want to make sure that the water's moving through fairly quickly. And if you notice that it's slowed down, you can just have a quick look to see if your paper filter has fallen into your spout, creating that seal. And you might also notice that the rate of flow or liquid coming through at the bottom has slowed to a trickle. If you notice any of these things, you can just lift your paper filter up, which will open up that airway and allow your water to move through a bit quicker. So we can see here, as the water moves through the bed of coffee at the base, that it's nice and flat, and that tells you that you've done a good job with the way you swirl and the way you've added the water in between. And once the water's moved all the way through, you can just take out your paper filter. This could go into the compost or into the trash. Empty out your water that you used to preheat your cups. Give it a little swirl. And that's how you make a pour over. Thanks for joining.